thank you for having me. This is very exciting. I actually have never attended Hackaday SuperCon because I'm coming all the way from Australia. I'm in Brisbane and it is sunny right now. And so yes, I feel very, very blessed to be involved this year, and thank you so much for having me. Before I jump in too much further, I would like to do an acknowledgement of country, which is a little ritual we do here in Australia. As part of it here today, I'd like to pay my respects to the traditional owners of the land from which I'm joining you, and that's the Turrbal people, and acknowledge that not only are we learning here today, but that this area of land has been used as a place for exchanging knowledge since basically the dawn of humanity. And I would also like to pay my respects to the traditional owners of all the lands from which we're meeting here today, and pay my respects to their elders and wise peoples, past, present, and emerging. And that's just a little ritual we do here in Australia whenever we meet as a group of people. Cool. So yes, as Kerry very kindly said, I'm Billie, and I used to help run the 3D printing subreddit, and I help run the 3D printing Discord, and I just started a YouTube channel, which I'm very excited about. But yeah, I make posters like these how to level posters, and I'm really interested in really weird techniques that kind of combine different areas of interest in the world of 3D printing, or with the world of 3D printing rather. So I have like some embroidered keycaps for mechanical keyboards, and I just worked out a toolpath pattern so I can create interesting little shapes that, yeah, were inspired by some woodworking that I saw, some awesome Japanese woodworking. So someone's saying novel mechanical keyboards. Oh, yeah. Yeah, so we've been talking a little bit as people have been trickling in about why we signed up today, and it looks like all of you guys have amazing ideas, all of you people rather, sorry, I'm trying to correct my language. All of you wonderful people have awesome ideas. So hopefully we'll talk through some of those ideas, and hopefully I'll present you some you haven't yet thought of. And hopefully you will end up with a little 3D printed thing at the end of this session. So I'm going to be running this a little bit topsy-turvy. We're going to get our print started first up. And as that's going, we're going to talk about some concepts and considerations and just some inspiring cool things to kind of get your creative juices flowing. And then hopefully we'll be able to pull our prints off, talk about post-processing, and you'll actually have a printed thing at the end of this. So fingers crossed that will all work, because I really wanted you to be able to come away with a physical object, because I think that's quite fun, especially seeing as we're meeting remotely. It's kind of interesting and cool. 3D printing allows us to do that. And then at the end, I will give you some resources for the future. So if you want to run through this process yourself, I have some guides up online, so you don't have to remember everything right now. We have it available. Yeah. So 3D printing onto fabric, it makes these kinds of things. So this is a little necklace I made, and it is 3D printed onto a very lightweight fabric, so it looks almost transparent. And it moves around and crumples just like fabric. So this is kind of the thing we're doing. Today we're doing a slightly smaller one. I've made a model up for you, which is this sort of little hexagon pattern, which Zoom doesn't like very much. But yeah, just a little one just to get you going, because I wanted it to be nice and quick so that we could actually complete it by the end of the session. But the basic, has anyone got any questions before I run on? Maybe hunky-dory. Chat looks good. Is there a list of what we need to visit? Yeah, sorry, I thought it was in the, that's okay. So what you'll need is a piece of tulle or organza, a lightweight fabric, some tape, as in like some blue tape or masking tape for your 3D printer, and some scissors to cut the fabric. I think that should be it, yeah. Cool, so the basic process of 3D printing onto fabric is we print 3 layers, and then we pause the print and we put in some fabric and we tape it down and make sure it's not going anywhere. And then we continue the print right up until it finishes, and then we can remove it from the bed and we have our 3D printed fabric piece. So it's not super complicated, but there are a couple little tricks in the slicer and stuff that can make this process a little bit easier. So I will talk you through those. If you want to jump on now, this model is up on my website, and it's at that little URL. So if you're following along, jump on there, and I will show you what it looks like. So this is the website, and in here is the little zip file. So just download that one, and you'll be able to extract the file from there, the STL file. And also
Hey,
below
Billie, can you
that,
put that back on the screen real quick?
Oh yes, sure. Sorry. Oh, I meant to put it. I meant to put it in the chat. I will also copy paste it into the chat. Sorry, everyone. There you go. Thank you, Julian. Thanks for picking me up on that. Yeah, so on the website, download it from here. And then underneath it also is the slide deck. So if you want to follow along with us today, you can. Yeah, I quite like learning visually and by reading. So if that's your style as well, go for it. It's at that same link, which again is this. So yeah, jump on, download the model, and then jump into Cura, because I will show you how to slice it in there. How's everyone going? Got the model okay? Got some nods? Yep, yep, looking good. Oh, Nina, you look like you're already printing on Fabric Pro. I think I've seen that project. I think it might be in the slide deck. Awesome, awesome. Cool. Well, has everyone got Cura open? We got the model. Got Cura.
Not, yeah, we'll see.
We'll see. Do you want me? I can wait a little longer.
No, I haven't got Cura installed. I'm using the Creality slicer, so we'll go with that.
Oh, Creality slicer is a version of Cura, so you should be all right. Yeah, you should be fine, unless they've changed it. But I don't think they have. I'm pretty sure they're still using Cura. Yeah, they just rebranded it, so you should be good. Okay, so in Cura or Creality slicer, same. We're going to be printing in PLA, and we're going to be setting our layer height to 2 millimeters. And most of your slicer settings will be the same, except that you'll want 5 bottom layers. And then we'll also add the pores. So this is our sort of checklist, but I will show you how to do that now. So here in Cura, oh, it really is tiny. I tried to make it as big as I could, but that is quite small. I'll talk you through it. So in Cura, there's this wonderful search bar at the top here under print settings, which if you don't have this open, if you click on this bit where it says like your layer height and the infill percentage and all that sort of stuff, it will bring up your print settings. And if it looks kind of abbreviated like this, go into custom, and that will give you the full list of all the Cura settings. So that you can change anything. It's kind of, yeah, overpowered. There's a lot of settings. So I like using this search bar to find any of the settings that I need because yes, it's a very long list. So the first thing we want to change is layer height. And we want to change that to 0.2 millimeters, just so that this print doesn't take too long, and also so that it's nice and squishy. If we were going up to 3, it might start to get a little bit loose and might not squish through to the layers. So 0.2 is the goer. Cool, Slick 3R, sorry. I don't have the instructions for Slick 3R, but I assume there's a way to add a pause in Slicer. So try as much as you can to follow along. We'll see how we go. Oh, you've only ever used it in Repeater, there you go. It should work with other filaments. I'm using PETG today because it's quite easy and it prints at a relatively low temperature. I'm sorry, I'm using PLA today because it prints at a relatively low temperature. PETG is a little higher, but you should still be fine. I think once you start getting into like ABS territory, I would be a little bit worried about some of the fabrics melting on the nozzle, but please give it a go and see if it works. I just thought I'd go PLA because most people have it. It's pretty easy to print and all that jazz. Cool, there you go. Ah, look, we're looking out for each other. Thank you for helping each other in the chat. Beautiful. So 0.2 millimeter layers, and we want, what am I just want to, yes. So if you type in bottom, there will be a setting that is bottom layers, and we want to make that 5. And that's purely because we are 3D printing 3 layers and then putting our fabric in, and then we're putting 2 more layers on top. So it actually sandwiches the fabric in. If we were to leave that as like 3 layers, which I think is the default, it would just put the fabric in and it would only be held by the edges of our model, like as by the walls of our 3D prints, which isn't really as strong as properly sandwiching it between full layers. So make it 5. So we have 3 layers, our fabric, and then 2 more layers on top to just really squish it in there. So bottom layer is 5. You can print with or without bed heat. It doesn't matter too much. Yeah, I've had success both ways, so it doesn't really matter in this instance. Yeah, and just one note, when we're printing quite small patterns like these, if you use concentric infill in the top layer, it can kind of mar the surface. I have an example of that here, just because the nozzle, we're not gonna be able to see it, but just because the nozzle kind of moves around in tiny little circles, it kind of gets a bit scratchy right in the middle. So you might want to set it to lines or something instead of concentric if your top pattern, like fill pattern, is concentric. You might want to change it to lines or zigzag or just something else that doesn't keep the nozzle moving in the same area for a long time. How's everyone doing? Anyone got any questions so far? Looking all right? I'm getting some nods. Cool. Feel free to interrupt me. I know I talk quite quickly, but feel free to interrupt and I'll keep trying to look at the chat. So yeah, please just pull me up if I'm not making any sense. Cool. So that's the bulk of the slicing done, but we want to add our pause as well. So you can, if you're just like doing a quickie, print it and just hit pause on your machine. But we can actually pause it at a very specific time, which makes it a bit easier. So in Cura, the way to do that is, I will jump back to my presentation, is to add a post-processing script. So I have a little GIF here of it going through and ticking along. I will do it, I'll demo it, and then I'll leave this GIF running so that you can do the same thing. So there is, I will switch back to the actual software. Here we go. So you can go into, oh my gosh, come on, prepare. Oh my gosh, sorry, no, it's me. So go into extensions up in the top. Oh, I'm a little bit chopped off. I'll move this down a little. There we go. Extensions, and then post-processing, and then modify G-code. Oh yeah, you can make the initial layer height. It can kind of be whatever you normally use. I normally make it the same as the rest of the layer heights, though sometimes people like setting it smaller so you get a bit of squish to adhere to the bed. You should be fine with whatever you use. So, David, is that in the modify G code? You don't have layers, only millimeters? Is that with the post-processing that you're talking about? I'm not sure. Okay, cool. We'll get back to that one. So yes, we are adding the pause by going extensions, post-processing, modify G-code, and it will open up a little window rather like this, and it will probably be empty. So you'll want to add a script and go pause at height. There's a few different pause at heights depending on what firmware your machine is running. And if you're running something like a Creality machine, like Ender 3, CR10, or Prusa MK3 or MK2 or any of those, you're probably running Marlin. So you will probably want this one that just says pause at height. There are other pauses for other machines that are running RepRap firmware like the Duet or other ones. So yes, use the one that works for you, but probably this pause at height one will be the one, because this one is for Marlin, even though it doesn't quite say that, but it is. And in this menu, you want to change a couple of things. The pause height is, you can enter it in, sorry, yes. It'll say pause at height, and you want, and the first option will be pause at, and we'll have a little drop down, and we can change it to height or layer number. And we want to change it to layer number because we want to change it at layer 3. So just that first drop down, change it from height to layer number. And then the next field below it is pause layer and change that to 3. How's that looking? Everyone following? One thing too is you can change, so it'll raise the nozzle a bit by about 3 centimeters or so, and it will park it somewhere. And it defaults to this 190 millimeters for me, which actually is further than my bed, because I'm on a delta. This origin point for a delta is the very center of the bed. If you're using like a bed slinger or any Cartesian, really, it's probably a corner. So 190 millimeters is usually fine on those machines, but for mine, that goes way off the bed. So I'm going to change this to 0, so it literally just raises up and just hovers in the middle of my bed. But just check that 190 mils isn't bigger than your bed is big. So you might want to change it just to 0, 0. But yeah, it's just basically going to raise the nozzle and put it somewhere. So just check that one, because I've been caught out before, and then my printer makes a horrible grating noise, and I'm like, and turn it off, and you've wasted a little bit of filament. So yes, change those park values to 0 or something along those lines. And other than that, that should be fine. So once you've got that, just hit close, which does save it. There's no like save button, but it's kind of saving it as it goes. And then you should be hunky-dory. You should be able to just hit save on your G-code. So I will just play this GIF in background for anyone who didn't follow along, just because that talks through the steps as well. And in the meantime, I'm going to export this G-code. And oh, helps if I actually put the model on a bed, which I hadn't done before now. Oh dear. So yes, I'm going to slice it now, and I'm going to send it to my printer using Octoprint. Has anyone not put the pause in? Does anyone need another go of that? The script will be active next print. Yes, you do need to remember to disable it. Thankfully in Cura now, it didn't used to do this, but thankfully now it has this little alert down when you're slicing, which is like, hey, you've got a post-processing script on, because I think, yeah, lots of people did what I did and forgot about it and left it on, then you just had to hit go again on your next print. So yes. Okay, you can pause manually, that should be fine. Just try and pause at layer 3-ish or 2.5 or whatever. Just as long as it's around 3, it should be good. Cool. Yes, so you do have to remember to disable it for your next print. Don't do this now, but when you don't want to print on fabric, just jump back into that settings, extensions, post-processing, modify G-code, and just hit that little X button to remove it. But don't do that now. Do that when you want to print something not on fabric. But yeah, you will have to disable it again. Cool, so hopefully your print time will be somewhere around half an hour. If it's not, maybe just speed up your print for the sake of this. It might not look super pretty, but hopefully it will finish by the end of our session. I do really want that. Do really want to give you a chance to be able to take it off the bed and everything. So yeah, save it to file, and yeah, we will pop it in through Octoprint for me. I've got it up here. If you haven't used Octoprint before, really cool software. It allows you to print remotely using your 3D printer, which is very, very fun. Cool. Alrighty. I'm going to, yes, hit print on that. It's a little bit noisy, my machine. I've tried to find a quieter place for it, but it just, there's nowhere in the house because I share my house with people. So a little bit tricky. So we're just going to have to deal with the noise today. The nozzle does cool down during the pause, but it should heat back up again as well before it starts printing again. Yes, Octoprint, amazing. Gina is a legend. Sorry, I'm just reading the comments. Don't put the fabric down yet. We're going to print to layer 3, so that's what our pause was all about. That's why we inserted that pause. So we're going to print 3 layers, then the machine's going to pause for us. Then we're going to put our fabric in and we're going to tape it all down. and then we're going to continue our print. Yes, you can have a couple of minutes to go put the print on. Please do that now. You should share your house with animals. I have fish and I have pet ants because I'm an odd human. So yes, go do the print. Yep. Mine's just warming up, so we'll do that. And as those are going, I thought we might chat a little bit about some cool things that I've seen people do with fabric printing. Oh, actually, no, while we're doing that, I might start explaining how we're going to put the fabric down, because I'll explain it before and I'll explain it as I do it as well. So no one should miss out. But what we're going to do, before we set up the print, probably should put, it won't matter too much. If you haven't set up your print yet, put down some paper tape to print on top of. It just helps us when we're lifting it off, because there's so many small parts and it's attached to quite a flimsy material. We don't want to be like jamming a paint scraper in there because it can break the fabric. So if you haven't already set up your print, put down some paper tape first and we'll print on top of that. That's okay. It should be fine. We'll just have to be gentle as we flick it off. I'm sorry, that was my bad. I might actually go put the paper tape on mine now. I will start doing a demo over at my printer. Yes, I will flick to this camera. Masking tape, yes, like 3M tape, blue tape, masking tape, any of that should work. I will flick to this other camera right now, and then I will take you over to the printer. How's everyone doing? We feeling okay? Good? Got some thumbs up, some nods. Beautiful, beautiful. Awesome. Okay. Cool. I'm just going to pop you over here at my printer. And this is my bed. I'm going to be putting down a bit of paper tape. Sorry about that. I meant to say it sooner. But yes, a little bit of paper tape to print on top of. It just helps remove the print so that we have something we can pull the print up from. You just want to try and line them up with each other pretty closely. Cool. So we are just warming up. And I'll put in my little leveling doodad. Because if you're putting paper down, you'll also want to re-level because otherwise it might be a bit squished. You might be all right, but I'm going to level just to be safe. And it's going to do that. It'll be a little bit noisy. It's particularly noisy when it levels. It's not quite as noisy when it's printing. But I'll step away a little because it's kind of noisy. 24 minutes to print. Good. That's what we want, David. Yeah, this is my little craft room. It's my happy place. I think I can. Yeah, this is my room. So that's my printer that we're printing on right now, and this is where I'm sitting normally. Got my window. It doesn't have to be unheated, but you can make it unheated. I used to print it unheated all the time, but the paper tape is really just to make it easier to remove. So we'll be lifting the paper tape and hopefully the print will come off with the tape. It just makes it easier so we're not like jamming a paint scraper in under there because that might tear the fabric as we're like poking it. Cool, so flick back to this camera. This will be done pretty soon. Oh yes, they are my new painting. Oh, thank you, Jeff. Yeah, I just started to learn to paint. It's very fun. Where are we? There. Yes, it's very fun. I'm enjoying it. So after it levels, I'm going to get it to start printing. Oh, it's nearly done. All right, flick back. Woo. dear, my mic is tangled. Sorry, everyone. Yes, cool. Got you back. Hello. So I'll take this off, take off the leveling, and we will hit go. And it's going to start printing. And hopefully it'll just print hunky-dory. Yeah, she's going for it. I also had a question about thicker fabrics and how to handle. Cool. So thicker fabrics. I haven't done too much work with thicker fabrics, but I do know some other people have, and they've had quite a lot of success. Sometimes you have to turn up the heat a bit more, purely because the fabric sort of acts as an insulator. So sometimes, yeah, you have to crank the heat up 10 degrees or more on your bed. And so, yeah, then you can get into the thicker fabrics. If they're really, really thick, they have a bit of a hard time sandwiching between the fabric, like the layers above and below have a bit of a hard time sandwiching the fabric. So what you can do is cut little holes in the fabric so that the layers of plastic above and below the fabric have something to adhere to. So yeah, that's a way to do it with like polar fleece and stuff along those lines, is to, yeah, cut little holes where the fabric can, where the plastic can join together as it's sandwiching. You don't need a laser cutter, but a laser cutter is always awesome. So if this is the reason you're buying a laser cutter, go for it. Have you experimented with setting a standby temperature versus not? I haven't, but please experiment. I'm all for experimenting, and if you can make it better, let me know and I'll update my article. And yeah, that would be awesome. Cool. Question about TPU on fabric. I personally have never successfully printed TPU because all of my printers are Bowden machines, and every time I try to print TPU, they find new and exciting places to spool out of. So I've never had a successful TPU print at all, let alone on fabric. So I have not done it, but I have seen other people do it. I know David Shorey has done TPU on some stretch fabrics. PETG should be fine. It prints very similarly to PLA. It just has a hotter bed. So just watch it isn't melting the fabric. Other than that, should be fine. PETG should be fine. Flexible PLAs, yeah, you could. Oh, cool. Okay, I might try that out on mine then. I might pick up some of that if I can get it here in Australia. It's always a struggle. Cool. Anyone got any more questions for the now? We good? Okay, cool. Beauty. Well, while it's printing, I might do a little bit of talking on some of the kinds of techniques and interesting things you can do with this technology. So we have been talking a little bit about fabric choices, and we've got a question. Is it good that some fabrics are melty? Do they work better than this in natural fibers? I believe yes, personally. So I recommend when you're starting out using polyester or nylon or plasticky based fabrics. So yeah, with any fabric, there is two main considerations when it comes to fabric. There's the fiber themselves, as in the actual raw materials that make up the fabric, and then there's the weave of the fabric, or the construction method. It's not always woven, it can be knitted and a bunch of other things too, but the construction method and the actual fibers themselves. So fibers themselves, if you're starting out, go with something like polyester or nylon, something that is plasticky and man-made. Man-made in the sense that it comes from a plastic, not rayon, which is actually more like a natural fiber in many ways. Because that way, yeah, it does melt in a little bit with the nozzle as it goes, which is helpful. So yes, that fiber-wise, head to that direction. If you're starting out, though I have seen people have lots of success with lots of different things, so feel free to just try as well. And then in terms of the weave, nice open weaves work best. So ones that you can actually see through. And I talk about some good examples on the next slide. So what I'm printing on today is called tulle, and it's usually made for like wedding veils and stuff. It's really, really lightweight. It has a tiny little diamond pattern, and it's usually made out of nylon or polyester. And it's a really good one because it looks basically invisible. It's what I used to make this necklace. And I'll hold it here. you basically can't see the fabric. It basically looks like this is kind of floating, which is kind of a really cool effect. So I really like it for that, though it is a little bit more delicate. So tulle itself can tear relatively easily. You don't have to finish. Do I happen to have the link? Yeah, I thought I put one in the little blurb thing, but I'll grab one off. I'll try and grab one off the US Amazon. But you can usually get it in rolls. I might do it in a tick. But you can usually get it in a roll. They sell them for like wedding decorations, and it's like a little short roll. I'll actually have one I'll show you when I cut some off for mine, because I'll cut it off a very similar roll. So yes, that's one that I quite like using. It's not very strong though. It tears relatively easily. And this was my very first necklace, and I've worn it to death, and it is starting to break along some of these lines. I really have worn it a lot though, so it can hold up pretty well. If you want a little bit more strength, but you still want to be able to see through, net is a good one. It's usually a bit stronger. You can see through it a bit more, but you could, like, if you're putting it against skin, you could paint it a tone that's similar to your skin tone if you were going that route. But yeah, you still can see it a bit more. But from a distance, quite a good effect, and a lot stronger. These both have the advantages, tulle and net both have the advantages of not fraying when you cut them. So you can just cut them straight off, and you don't need to do any seam allowances. You don't need to do any sewing at all. You can just cut it off and it's hunky-dory, fine. Yeah. Is it a problem if the fabric is a bit stretchy? Not necessarily, no. And I think there's actually some cool things to explore with stretch fabrics. If you stretch it out before you put it on the bed, or you stretch it out and then tape it down while stretched, it will kind of shrink up around whatever you're printing. So that could be interesting. If you don't have really good adhesion with the stretch fabric, it might peel off a little easier than non-stretch fabrics. So I would try and use an open weave stretch fabric like power mesh. It's used in dancewear. It's kind of like a net, but it's really stretchy. So yeah, I would try and use something that still the plastic can touch each other from each side. It's got holes in it and you can see through it. A really quite strong fabric though, that still is relatively see-through, relatively easy for the plastic to adhere to each other, either side of it, is organza. And this is used a lot as like a outside decorative fabric. It's quite pretty, but also a lot in construction of couture garments, because although it is extremely lightweight and extremely thin, it is also very strong. And this usually comes in polyester or silk. And yeah, very strong fiber. If you need a bit of strength, I would go organza. The only thing about organza is that it does tear along the edges. So you will get grinning. You will need to actually finish that seam. So it's really good if you want to make something to attach to an actual garment, like say a pocket or something. This would probably be the goer, because it probably would survive in the wash. Oh, cool. What do we got? Yes, that looks exactly perfect. That link, perfect. Yeah, and you can get shorter rolls too if you don't want to. Although that's pretty cheap, $8, but you can get shorter rolls of like 25 feet or whatever, and that'll be, or 25 yards, and that'll be more than enough. Like, that's quite a lot. So, stretchy net fabric, power mesh. Power mesh. It's used a lot in dancewear. You might have to find somewhere that supplies fabric specifically for dancewear. But yeah, if you wanted to make interesting stockings or something, that would probably be the way to go. Though you could probably use stocking fabric too, now that I think about it. Just chop up some stockings, give that a go. Yeah. Has anyone got any more questions on fabric before I move on a little more? Fabric choices. So yeah, just those main three again that I suggest you try when you're starting out is tulle, net, and organza, and tend towards the more man-made fibers like polyester, nylon. Felt sheets. I haven't tried felt sheets. I think probably you wouldn't be able to sandwich very well with felt sheets, so you'd probably want to cut some holes in it, or just see if it sticks on its own. You might also find the felt little fibers may stick to your nozzle. They might like gum it up. So give felt a go, but yeah, be ready to clean your nozzle potentially. Beautiful, thank you, Julian. Ah, legend. Loving the links, thank you very much. Cool, so I might talk a little bit now about model. Is there an easy way in Cura to skip whole layers, e.g. for thick fabrics? Not sure, but it's not particularly hard to do manually. If you've never opened a G-code file before, it's basically a list of coordinates. And it's a relatively human-friendly language. Marlin has a really good online like library, dictionary, reference guide to all the different G codes. Yeah, it can talk you through reading G code, but basically Cura is pretty friendly in that it exports every layer starting with layer 0, layer 1, layer 2. So all you would have to do, I think, is delete a layer, or maybe even just change the Z height as it moves between layers. It might be one to check. But yeah, you could investigate it. You might not need to though. Like just give it a go, because the nozzle does push down and it's kind of a triangular shape, so it sort of irons it. So just try it first before overcomplicating it, I think. Cool. All right, models. A little bit of talk about models. And when you're making your models, you want to make them so they have quite a bit of gap in between, so they actually can fold and move around each other. And yeah, because if you make really large parts, they might like kind of pinch at areas and it might wear your fabric quicker. So you want to make lots of little segments. So something like what we're printing now, this little hexagon pattern is really good. And this kind of necklace where there's lots of little open parts for it to kind of move around on. I've used 3mm gaps between each of these, and it seems to work quite well. So 3mm gaps, you could probably go a little smaller, but I wouldn't go too much smaller than that. I have this model, obviously you have this model already. If you want the necklace, I have that up on Prusa printers. I'll grab a link at the end and send it through. But yeah, just another example, like have them spaced out a bit. Nice little bits, just kind of spaced out. Yeah, and that's pretty much it when it comes to models. Like you can think about, so part of the reason this one started to break was that at the points of things, it would kind of wear the fabric, because as it moved, it would sort of poke holes in the fabric. So if you wanted to, you could round out edges. That might make things last a little longer as well. But I kind of really like the look of the sharp edges. So it kind of, you balance what you're looking for and with what is long lasting, I suppose. Cool. So yeah, mine has just gotten to the pause section. Is anyone else still waiting for their pause on their machine? Still waiting? Okay. We might talk about some cool people and some cool projects and some cool things that have been done with this technology. And then, yeah, in 10 minutes or so, we will check in again and see if we're all paused. So I cannot talk about fabric printing without talking about David Shorey. He is the legend who came up with this technique, and he does such awesome things with it. If you've ever seen this technique before, it will probably be some of his scales, which are these cool things, and they look amazing when they're moving. Yeah, wow. Amazing. And they just move so cool. He has lots of different variations of this sort of scale claw pattern, and they look really, really awesome in cosplays. I've seen them on like shoulder pads and gauntlets, and it always looks absolutely incredible. He has lots of variations on this too, like some with like interchangeable little snap-on, I keep wanting to call them claws, but they're scales really, snap-on scales, so you can change lots of different colors and stuff. And yeah, lots of different shapes. I think this might be his most recent one. He was also going to try and be here today. Are you in the audience? Make yourself known if you're here, Mr. Shorey. But yeah, he's amazing and such an incredible human, really clever stuff. So if you don't follow him on the socials, check him out, because even when he's not fabric printing, he's doing amazing things. So that's some of his work. He's also done some really cool lampshades where he has fabric printed part of them, but also used little bits that poke out of the fabric and join them up with bits of wood. So you don't necessarily have to use it as just a beautiful thing. You can use it as a functional item as well, and yeah, interweave these processes with other 3D printing processes. So yeah, these are really, really cool. I think they're actually in a museum. I can't remember the name of the museum. I should have written it down. But yeah, really, really cool. Those fabric braces, so cool. How they combine with the prints. Yes, I completely agree, completely agree. He also has done some work in using these in a more functional context. So this is, oh my goodness, fiberglass net, kind of like fly screen or like vent screening. It's used to keep things from out of your house, basically. But it's quite strong and lightweight and flexible. And these are drone parts, which obviously need to be strong and lightweight and flexible. And so he has actually reinforced these fabric prints, these 3D prints with the fabric. And you can, if you can see, these are kind of cut on 2 different squares. And that's because fabric has this thing called bias, which basically, if you pull it at a 45-degree angle, it has a bit of stretch in that angle, even if it doesn't have stretch in the like 90 and 0-degree angles, like if you're pulling along the length of the fabric either way. So when you overlap them, on a 45-degree angle like he has now, you're actually eliminating that stretch in that 45 angle. So if you are going to be doing this for strength, that's probably a good idea. And I think what he's done here is actually print some layers, lay on a piece of fabric, print some more layers, lay on another piece of fabric, print some more layers. So he's sandwiched it a couple of times in there. So it's nice and secure. Yeah, it's basically 3D printed fiberglass. Yeah. Oh, cool. I hope my 10-second introduction to bias made sense. I probably, yeah, I will make a video on it at some point because it's a very interesting property of fabric that you can do a lot with. But in this instance, you'd want to avoid it because you'd really be wanting it to be quite firm. Oh, sorry. Is that a question? No? Okay. But yeah, this is a very cool way of reinforcing 3D prints. I think this technique holds a lot of promise for functional items, particularly in things like drones that need to be lightweight. You can get carbon fiber sheets even and give that a go. Kevlar also comes as a loose weave before it's been laminated. So you could even try putting some Kevlar in a 3D print, it could get really interesting from like a sort of material science perspective, I think. Yeah, really, really cool in the world of robotics, I think. David has also done printing onto stainless steel mesh, which I think is really cool. He's made some beautiful origami things. And here are some of them. This is actually a video. I will press play. This is a lampshade. And this one here is a cool pattern that kind of like opens up. And it's very cool. I've actually been using the stainless steel technique to make houses for my ants, the aforementioned pets that I have, because you use stainless steel mesh to stop them escaping or other things getting to them, which is kind of more the problem with ants. And yeah, you can 3D print kind of like we're doing with fabric, but onto stainless steel. You do want to watch that you're not using a really good nozzle because it will scratch the nozzle as it goes over the stainless steel. And you also want to bump your bed heat really high. So he was using PETG and he made it 90 degrees Celsius. It's because the stainless steel actually wicks the heat away from the bed. So you really want to crank it up quite a bit more than you normally would, like 10 degrees or so. But yeah, it works. It's very cool. What about this is made of stainless steel? So all this gray bit is all stainless steel. The purple is the print. And in this one too, the little lines in between are the stainless steel. So he's sort of using it as a living hinge. So all the gray bits are the stainless steel. Stainless steel mesh, sorry. It's a mesh, like a mesh fabric. Do I have some here? Not as a good thin piece, but yeah, it's like a piece of fabric that's very finely woven. Yeah, cool. He also, I'll talk about it a little later. How's everyone's prints doing? Have we got a pause from everyone? Pause. Anyone still waiting for their print to pause? No? Okay. We might switch over to that then. Yours is, oh, okay. Bummer, Nina. Okay. Let's check that one after. Let's connect on a social and we'll see if we can work that one out after the session. Yeah, cool. So I will switch back to the other camera and we will lay down our fabric. So what we're basically going to do is lay down our fabric and put some tape around the fabric just to kind of make sure it stays flat. So using quite a bit of tape. You can use little bulldog clips, but you'd really have to make sure the fabric is quite flat and it's a little bit finicky. So for today, we're using tape. I'll flick back over. Cool. So this is the kind of fabric roll that I have. It's a bit squishy in the screen, but I'm trying to get it in shot. Yeah. So it's very, very lightweight tulle. You might even, yeah, you'll hardly be able to see it. But that's kind of what we want. We want it to be nice and gappy. So just cut a little bit off that is big enough to cover the 3D print that's there so far. If you have any drooly bits coming out of your nozzle, get rid of those because they'll get in your way. And you want to pop your fabric in, and you just want to make sure you don't hit the nozzle with your fabric because the nozzle may still be quite warm. And if you hit it with the fabric, it might just melt the fabric, which would be a shame. So then just grab your tape again and just tape around the edges and just make sure it's not buckling or like puffing up anywhere. If it is, just take the tape off and give it another go. And yeah, the best way I've found to do it is to just lay the tape down gently and then stick it down. So lay it onto the fabric first and then stick it down onto the bed. But it's relatively forgiving. If there's a couple of buckles, it should be all right. But you want to get it as flat as you can. Make it easy for the printer. And just tape it all up around. I'm just going to do 4 bits. You can reuse the tape too. I've used it for multiple prints before. Just like stick it to something nearby and reuse it again. And so it should look something like that. I will move the camera around a little. So something like that, nice and flat, tape all around it. Yeah, give that a go. Yeah, the tape glue will stick a bit through the mesh. You can also try and bring the tape outside of the mesh if it's a thicker fabric, just like make the fabric a bit smaller so that the tape can cover a bit of the fabric and a bit of your bed. Very odd, Nina. I wonder. Maybe try opening up the file and searching for, I think it's G28. It's G28 or G29. That should be the pause, and just see if it actually is in the file. Very strange. I'm not sure why that's not working. How's everyone doing? It's making a kind of sense. Am I going too quick for anyone? Without printing on really thick fabrics, could you skip glazed? Yeah, I think you can, but you would have to do a bit of post-processing of the G code. So you'd have to probably remove a layer and change you'd have to use, because there's 2 different modes of G code. There's like absolute and relative, which is basically like the coordinates all chained to each other, or they're a specific point in space each time. And so you'd probably have to use the one that's specific point in space each time. And then, yeah, remove a layer. You'd want to do it. I don't want to give you a strict answer and say it'll definitely work, but there would be a way to make it work for sure. But check out the Marlin G code library. That'll help you read the G code, which will help you work out what you need to do. I'm going to get my print going again. I'm just going to hit go so that, yeah, it'll continue. It's just going to warm up again. Oh, cool. Thanks, Mikey. Awesome. Yeah, I think so, Alex. And I also think if you're using a thick fabric, cut little holes in it. I think I have an example of it a little later on, but if you cut little holes in the fabric, then it gives the plastic either side of the fabric something to stick to, can like stick to itself through the holes. So if you're doing like buttons or something or little motifs, cut a little hole where each of the little motifs is going to go, so it can kind of stick in almost like a permanent press stud, or almost like a button, I suppose, like going through the fabric, if that makes sense. Yeah, have I missed anyone? Living hinge. Yeah, so pretty much the same. So if you're doing a living hinge, you normally would be printing it with like, say, a box here and a lid here, and they would be joined by a little bit of filament here, and it would like wrap around and you'd be able to close the box. So by living hinge, just for anyone who doesn't know what I mean, it's this thing. It's like a really thin hinge. This one was actually glued, but this method should still work anyway. So a box and a little lid. And yeah, so you would print them side by side and do exactly what we're doing, print 3 layers, then put the fabric in, then print the rest. And you would just tape the fabric around just as we're doing. The only thing that would be different is that when you take it off the printer, you'd also be cutting a hole in the box because otherwise it would be closed by the fabric. Other questions? Oh, Mikey. Oh, look at you go. Awesome. Thanks, Mikey. So yeah, if you don't want to use the pause in Cura, or that's not working for you, give that a go. Oh, we've got Christina in here too. So many friendly faces. Oh, so lovely to see everyone. Thank you. How's everyone doing? Have they restarted their prints? Have they got it all down? We're looking good. I got some thumbs up. Anyone still waiting? Delta's moving. That's looking good. Just hit resume. Hunky dory. Alrighty. Let's tick along. So I have talked a lot about David Shorey because he's kind of amazing. But there are also other awesome people. So Sophie Wong made an awesome piece, which I think, Nina, are you wearing? Did you work on this with Sophie? Because you're wearing a very similar.
I made my own. I was going to do a similar design. I gave up after one panel. It was very hard.
Well, it looks cool just like on one breast. I think that looks awesome. Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is a great first 3D printing project. It took me too many hours.
Oh, that's an evil first 3D printing project. But
I'm pretty happy with how it came out, though. I have a Bluetooth controller in it, and I can control it with my watch. So
that is so cool. Oh my gosh. This is something I really want to dive more into. I'm so newbie when it comes to electronics, so hats off to you. I'm in awe. That's amazing. So cool.
We can
well
chat
done.
Afterwards.
Yes, please. I would love that. That is so, so cool. Yeah, so Nina's got a live example, but little LEDs, you can poke them through after you do the 3D print if you design the model correctly. And yeah, they look really, really rad, I think. And I saw this first with Sophie Wong, does amazing work in the fabric printing space. She also did a talk last year at Hackaday SuperCon, and this was one of the projects she mentioned. And she also has another famous fabric 3D printed project, which is her dress, which is amazing. It is so beautiful, printed in such a gorgeous filament as well. And she's worked out a method for joining fabric prints together. So what she does is she cuts off one side of one part and then overlays it to the matching side of the other part, and then she flips it over and with a 3D pen kind of scribbles on the back to join the pieces together so they're sandwiched again, which is a way you can turn smaller pieces, you know, the size of your bed, into whole garments that look amazing. So Sophie, I am in awe of her as well. She does the coolest things. And she also talked in her talk, which is on YouTube, about the way you can control the way a fabric folds using this technique. So she has all these like lines on her garment here and these lines here, and they actually are the only places the fabric can fold. So you can create sort of origami-like structures that are very repeatable, and prevent a fabric from folding in another direction, which I think is not only gorgeous, but probably has a lot of sort of mechanical applications. Like I know I was looking a few months ago, there was an article about trying to make solar sails for you know, space travel, and how they would origami up into small spaces and then be released out and open up. And I think this sort of printing onto fabric technique is something that could be used to manufacture something like that. You could print the circuits or whatever a solar panel needs directly onto a material in the pattern that it should fold, and it would be a very repeatable fold. And I think that would be quite cool and very interesting. Yes, thank you, Carrie. Beautiful. It's a great talk. She has awesome projects. These are just one of her amazing things. So very good talk. Definitely give her a listen and a follow on Twitter, because very, very cool. And a more local friend, Steph Piper. She's a medical engineer and all-around amazing human here in Toowoomba, actually. She's about an hour away from me. Has also done some really cool origami type things with the 3D printing onto fabric technique. So these are some bangles she's made. This is what it looks like flat, and this is what they look like folded up and glued together. And this is actually a whole little bag. It's a little bit hard to tell from this, but it's like a little purse, and you can like reach into it and put things into it and pull things out. And I thought that was really, really neat. It's very fun to hold. And yeah, utilizing that living hinge technique of the fabric to add that strength along that join. So yeah, very, very cool work from Steph. This is like a little bit of cosplay. This is a Hyrule crest from Legends of Zelda. So this is just a cute little necklace, but another way you can incorporate this into cosplay type things. Very, very fun. And these masks, I love these. These are beautiful. Very, very quick Halloween mask. You know, like this would print in under an hour probably. And you just add a little bit of string and Bob's your uncle. You got a quick Halloween prop. I think this is really lovely because again, it's utilizing that tulle, which almost looks like nothing. So you could do all sorts of things with this technique, I think, on arms. And I think this would be really cool. Like I think about Mystique from, what's it called? X-Men. If anyone's ever seen that, how she has like this skin that has this texture to it. And I've always thought if we were doing a cosplay of something like that, or any kind of reptilian skin or something like that, this would be a really good technique. You get some power mesh and then 3D print all the little scales or whatever onto them. It could be really, really cool. What's everyone thinking? Has this sparked any ideas? Has anyone got any ideas that they're like, oh, I could use it for that?
Just thinking bracelets for the for the girls in the family. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
Pardon? What was that?
I think just bracelets for the women in my family. You know, just as a starter for 10, just to see if I can do it.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
On another note, I think it will probably revolutionize the 1 to 3 pound combat robot division, because if you can reinforce with very little weight to like carbon fiber standards, that would mean that a lot of the things that shatter don't shatter anymore.
Yes, definitely. And you won't need, a $50,000 printer to add a bit of carbon fiber. Yeah.
Or the CNC mill to work with aluminum and hope you can get it light enough.
Yeah. I think it like, what do they call it? Composite materials are fascinating to me. I think they're really, really cool. Yeah, and I agree. I think that technique has a lot of potential that's pretty much unexplored because I haven't seen anyone other than David do it. So go forth, make more robots. Yeah.
I will be.
Awesome. That's awesome. Well, I follow you on Twitter, so I will see them. What have we got in the chat? I better check that. Yeah, print onto mask and heated for molding. That would be really, really cool. Yep, beautiful. Yeah, for respiratory masks or the like COVID masks, that would be really, really cool for sure. You could do like interesting like I don't know, faces, lips, teeth. You could have a lot of fun with it. I think make quite 3-dimensional ones. Just don't use too much. You want to be able to breathe through it. That's important. Yeah, so snaps and ball joints. I have some more cool ideas. So here are some more. What was the woman I mentioned after Sophie? Oh, yes, that's Steph Piper. I have her Twitter. She's a very cool lady. On her Twitter is also a link to her website, I believe. Yes, she's very, very cool and very worth a watch. She's got some very cool projects in the works, and I love every chance I get to talk to Steph. We do women in 3D printing together, so I often see her at that. Yeah. So more ideas. We've talked a little bit about different kinds of materials, but different textures, even within the PLA range. I really like the silks because they are really shiny and they make like quite gemstone-y looking things that are just really pretty. So silk PLA is one to watch. Matte PLA looks a lot like porcelain, if you quite like that look. So white ceramic. TPU, one to try, one I haven't personally tried, one I've seen other people try and get success out of. So that could be very, very cool, especially with those like claw type ones. You know, you can make interesting like cosplay stuff and also not take someone's eye out, which would be nice. Yeah, others may be too hot. So if you're getting into like the nylon and ABS territory, might be too hot, but like give it a go. The worst thing you're going to get is like a junk on your nozzle, which you just wipe off with a bit of cloth. So give it a go, I say. I'm all for just trying things. One thing not many people have done, but that works quite well, is resin. So I made this little love heart shaped keyboard. This little circuit board came from a little cheapy keyboard like this one. And its design, I'm making a thing called a cyberdeck, which is like a little tiny personalized computer. It's very silly and fun, but it's just like a little Raspberry Pi laptop essentially. And yeah, I wanted it to be super cutesy. Like everything had to be ridiculously cute because it was Polly Pocket inspired. So I made a keyboard base plate and tiny little love heart keys. But they are printed in resin, so I could get the detail on them. And yeah, just print it onto a bit of tulle, just like this. The only difference when, yeah, Polly Pocket Cyberdeck, yeah, it's a thing. It's not yet complete, but it makes me happier than it should. It's so ridiculously sweet and like just sickly sweet. It's silly. But yeah, lots of fun. So the only thing when you're doing resin is that you put the fabric on first. So you don't do the pause, insert fabric, continue printing. I tried doing that and it didn't work. It just failed every time. So you just put the fabric on first and it adheres really well because it's like a liquid flowing in and around the fabric. So I haven't had anything come off. I think the fabric would tear long before it came off. So yeah, and I just tied it on. I didn't glue it or anything. I literally just grabbed a bit of tulle and tied it around the bed of my photon and it came out perfect first go. Second go because that didn't work the first few times I tried with the pause. So yeah, resin, really cool. Resin is also really fun because you can add different colors really easily. You can make any sort of color you like and you can add glitter, which makes it super fun. So you can make opals and things. So for many, many years, historically, people used to wear actual gemstones on their garments. I have a background in theatrical costuming, so I love a lot of historical garments. And yeah, people used to wear like rubies and emeralds and all sorts of things all over their clothes. And we could bring that back, but you know, without the like having to dig up gemstones, we could just print them directly on our clothes, which I think could be quite fun. So yeah, try adding a bit of glitter. It's good fun. Jewelry, we've talked a bit about this already, but yeah, lots of different applications in jewelry. Earrings can be really cool. You can make things like a ring with a pattern in it, and it kind of looks like the object in the middle of the ring is floating, which can look quite cool. But yeah, lots to explore in the jewelry sort of section, I think. 3D printing onto glass can also, your fabric shifting. Oh no, that's a shame. Yeah, might just be the fabric had a little bubble in it, or potentially maybe it slipped underneath the masking tape. If you can hold it down, like if you can tape it down smooth now, like with a bit more tape. If you can save it, give it a go. But yeah, otherwise just keep trying. But you kind of get a feel for it. But yeah, it's like 3D printing in general. You know, sometimes it just fails for no reason. I think with anyone who 3D prints probably has felt that probably many times. I know I have. Yeah, so 3D printing onto glass. This is not an excellent example because I got a little bit of marring on this, but you can get really, really shiny prints when you print onto glass. And I think this is really cool because it kind of starts to mimic sequins and embroidery, which I think holds a lot of interesting promise because you can make sequins of any kind of size or shape or whatever. David Shorey also came up with this awesome technique to make holographic 3D prints. And he has not put a film or anything on it. He's just pulled it off the printer. And how he does this is he prints onto diffraction grating, which is this like optical film you use for doing optics, but it looks rainbow and holographic and very cool. And you just print onto that. There is some tutorials out there. Adafruit did quite a popular one, and it looks really, really cool. So you could make like sequiny type things and have the holo on the outside. It's called a diffraction grating. I will put that word in the, because I have an accent, I will put it in the chat, diffraction grating. And I think you need specific kinds. I think the double doesn't work and the single does or something. So check out the Adafruit tutorial, because I think that talks you through it everywhere. A glass bed. Yes, a glass bed. Printing onto a glass bed. Yeah, so what you would do is the underside would become the good side of a 3D print onto glass. Sorry, I didn't explain that very well. Yeah, so when you're printing onto a glass bed, the underside becomes very, very shiny, which I think would be cool. Yes, so holo, very fun. David Shorey, again, genius. Some people don't like that word. Very, very, very clever and well worth a watch and a follow. I also think more on the embroidery chain. I, again, come from a historical costuming background, so I'm heavily inspired by old garments. Like, I've always loved this goldwork embroidery on old military jackets. And so I've started 3D printing little pieces that I'm going to put all over the jacket. So you can kind of do this sort of thing. You could print that directly onto a piece of net and then lay it over a garment and sew them together. So they'll become one. And different textures and stuff. You can make little sequins, depending on the shapes that you're printing. They'll catch the light differently. Just like little cool things to explore. As a substitute for glass, PEX would probably, okay, cool. I've never printed on PEX before, but that sounds awesome. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so this is a technique that I've seen a couple of people do. I couldn't find a great example, but when printing onto stretch fabric, you can stretch the fabric first and lay it down. Maybe get an embroidery hoop to do it. And then you print onto it. And then when you take it off, the stretch kind of shrinks back up, but it leaves like bubbly shapes where the 3D prints are, because those bits try to remain stretched, if that makes sense. So it kind of bubbles up around them. And I think that could create some really interesting textures and surfaces. You could get like a plain fabric that looks kind of like it's got a crocodile print in it, or, you know, something kind of interesting and textured. I think it's like cool one to explore. You could write your name in it and have it just really subtly show through. Oh, cool, 3D print camera, cool. Oh, nice. Onto t-shirts, that's awesome. Yeah, super cool. Yeah, garments, shirts. I really like accent pieces, like a little pocket. I just laid this on this shirt for effect, but yeah, you could just sew a little pocket onto something, little collar tips, cuffs, just like little areas of interest. I think would be quite cool. More functional items in the garment sort of side of things. You can create buttons and buttonholes. So you can print a button straight onto the garment, which I think is quite cool using this technique. And little eyelets. This is also, it's not that easy to see, but this is a kind of zipper. So you can actually slide these two pieces into each other and it creates an actual like attachment for these two pieces of fabric. And I've seen people use it to create even like pull type zippers. They print the zippers upwards and then the fabric folds down, and they can folds down that way actually. They can zip it up together. So you can actually print all the fastenings for your clothes straight onto them, which I think is a really interesting technique. Yeah, it blew my mind too, David. I was like, whoa, as well. Yeah, so here's some more examples of, these are snaps or press studs. I think in America you call them snaps, so we call them press studs here. But yeah, little like clips that you just print straight onto the fabric and you can clip things together. So if you don't want to go and glue them all together or 3D pen them together using Sophie's technique, you might be able to clip them all together, which I think is quite neat and cool. And you can make these any shape too, like you can make little flowers or something cute rather than just plain circles. Yeah, pretty cool. We've talked about this one. Oh, sorry. Has anyone got any more ideas? I'd love to just like get more ideas from people. Has anyone had any brain waves in the last seeing these kinds of things? Find it depends on the project for applause. Cool. Yeah, so yeah, that's the artifacts. Thank you, Christina. That's the, yeah, I think this is the one. This is these ones, yeah. Oh, fur, Ellie, that'd be cool. Yeah, that'd be very cool. Very, very cool. Awesome. Cool. Could make a good way to attach magnets to fabric captured in the print. Yes, totally agree. I love a good magnet. And yeah, so you can pause it, and as you're putting the fabric in, or even another pause later on, add a little magnet and it would be encapsulated into that fabric. I once saw this beautiful, beautiful set of curtains that didn't have curtain ties. It was all these huge triangles, and in the corners of the triangles, there were huge triangles with kind of gaps of fabric in between. And in the corners, there were little magnets. So you could just like kind of crumple them, and it would like magnetize to itself in different places and make these cool crumpled curtains, but like in this kind of geometric shape. And I think that would be really, really cool. And this would be a really cool way to make it happen, I think. Thin layers of glowing or clear PLA could be used for a glowing outfit. Yes, that would be very, very cool. I really want to get more into LEDs. I think there's so much awesome stuff that could happen in that realm. Yeah. Awesome. Oh, such good ideas. I'm loving it. I'm loving it. I love seeing what people come up with. We've talked a bit about living hinges already, but just, yeah, a closer up example rather than my little tiny hand, little tiny face. This is a piece of organza in there. So organza, again, is quite strong. I actually glued this piece in and doubled it over on the edges. So it's not technically fully printed as a living hinge, but you could do it in that method I described previously as a living hinge. And it will be a lot stronger than the plastic on its own, especially PLA. Like I know PETG is sometimes used for living hinges, but even then they don't last a radically long time. But with fabric in them, again, composite material, it would last a lot longer. So yeah. Oh, it didn't change any settings, but the pause worked this time. Printers are a mystery. Aren't they just like bizarre? Who even knows? Yeah. Another use for living hinges is this cool watch. So we're talking about bracelets before. This is kind of along similar lines. You can use it again as a sort of living hinge for watches. Yeah, I thought this was pretty neat. And yeah, I really just want to encourage you to experiment. Give it a go, see what works. Please, please, please tag me in anything you do, because I really love this technique, and I love, as you can see, I love hunting down cool things people have done with it. So please share anything you do, because I will gaze in awe. But yeah, color change partway through, or if you have a multi-material printer, you could do some really cool things too, I think. Yeah, play around with resin. Check out the people I linked, like David and Sophie and Steph. They always are doing cool things with this sort of technology. But yeah, how's everyone's prints doing? Are they still going? Mine's still going. How's everyone else's going?
Yeah, I'm still going.
Yeah, cool. Mine is too. It's very close, but it's still going. So we'll wait a little bit longer. Oh, it just finished. There you go. Perfect timing. But yeah, I will flick over to my printer and I'll show you how to take it off. And yeah, then we will continue on. How's everyone doing? We got any questions right now before I jump away from my computer? Oh, you're trying to print on mosquito netting. That's cool. Very cool. Oh no, ripped off. Maybe just make sure that, yeah, it's quite flat. Are you printing the PLA or the PETG? MS square or M square? PLA, okay. Interesting. Yeah, try and make sure it's very, very flat. Maybe try turning your bed heat off, just to keep it a little cooler. And yeah, give that a go. A couple of fails, but seems it's on the way now. Yeah. It's like anything. I mean, and especially in 3D printing, everything's hard. Everything fails a bunch. You will get it. I believe in you. Clips to hold the fabric. Yeah, sometimes clips are good. If you're using clips on tulle, you'll notice that there's that V-shaped pattern on the tulle. I'll skip back to my image of it so you can see what I'm talking about. So it's got this sort of diamond shape pattern. So if you're clipping with the tulle, you want to be putting clips that follow each other on this diamond shape. So you want to be putting one here and then following those lines and clipping over here, and putting one here and following those lines and clipping over here and clipping that way so it ends up flat. Because if you start pulling here, it'll like bubble over here. It'll make sense as you're playing with the tulle. It probably doesn't make sense now, but try and clip a clip and then follow the lines to the other side and clip another clip there. Yes, just follow the lines of the fabric when you're doing the clipping. Yeah, that might work. It might get it a bit tighter. Yeah. Okay, cool. I'm gonna jump over to the printer because we're getting close to the end. Not too close, but close enough. So I will show you how to take it off. Oh, if you've got a Y shift, you may have bumped the nozzle potentially. Yes, that is one thing to watch when you're putting the fabric in, is don't bump the nozzle. Yeah, or the bed. Yeah, bumping something will make it a little bit out of alignment. Some printers will allow you to like home it mid-print, and then it will like go back to where it was, but mine doesn't, so I just try not to bump anything. It's a little easier with a Delta, thankfully. It's quite hard to, you don't have the bed to bump as well as the nozzle, you only have the nozzle. And this one's a pretty firm nozzle, thankfully. So yeah, just peel all the tape up first, and just as you're going, be careful that you're not pulling up the tulle as it goes, because that might tear the tulle. Again, the tulle's sort of the most delicate of the fabrics. So now, once you've got the top layer of tape off, start peeling these up, but just start peeling all of them up. Don't peel it all the way to your print yet, because you want to kind of try and peel them up in unison with each other. Sounds a little tricky, but yeah, you just want to kind of make sure you're pulling them up at relatively the same time, because otherwise it might pull one side more than the other. But yeah, you'll see it's just slowly, hope I'm getting that on camera. Yeah, I am. It's like slowly lifting up, and the tape is making it easier to kind of lift these pieces up. I don't have to get a knife or my fingernails in there and start pulling them off. So yeah, pull them all the way off, and then the tape should pretty easily just pull off the back. Well, maybe not that end. It looks like it's torn a little. From this end, if it tears on one, try the other end and you'll probably be fine. But yeah, then you have your print. And I'll take this camera over to the desk, and I'll just talk about trimming it off. Got all my little things. Get these out of the way. So I'll just, here we can. Just check in the chat what printer I'm using. I've got a little Anycubic Cossel Linear Plus. It's a little Delta, which I quite like, but I don't think they sell them anymore. Wish I had a rig or something to stretch the fabric. You could try an embroidery hoop and stretch it on that first and then place it down, or just cut the fabric a little bit closer to the edge of your print. So just cut it a sort of circle shape, and then when you're placing the tape, place it so that the tape is partially covering the edge of the fabric, but also covering the bed, and that might hold it down flatter. Does that make sense, Anna? Am I explaining that well? I'm not quite sure. But yeah, like if you were to cut the fabric off a little bit before you place it on the bed, then you could have the tape would touch directly to the bed and or directly to the tape on the bed and to the fabric. So it might hold it just a wee bit flatter. Yeah, cool, good, good. And yeah, not all masking tapes are equal. That blue tape is really high quality. That is true. Yes. So once you have your print, if you want to, you can cut around it. So that's what I did for this necklace. Is I just went along with a little sharp pair of scissors and just literally trimmed around the edges. Probably you want some fabric-y type scissors because it'll make it a little bit easier, though tulle is quite delicate, so kind of anything could probably cut it. You could probably even, if you really wanted to try, do it with an X-Acto knife or something. But yeah, just cut around the edges. And I'm having a hard time leaning over in this awkward angle. Yeah, hope I'm showing this all right. Yeah, you can just trim it off. This pattern is really easy because you can trim every bit off and it will still stay together quite well. So that's kind of what you'll get, which is quite fun. I quite like it. And you could sew this down onto something now. You could directly use it as a pocket. You could hang it around your neck and call it a necklace. You could do all sorts of cool things with it. One thing I do want to talk about though is that sometimes you want to leave a bit of extra fabric. And gonna hope that this shows up. So there's actually a bit of fabric across here. It's very hard to see. Maybe if I put it on against something black. Ooh, ooh. Oh no, I've lost you all. What did I hit? Okay, hit like F11 or something. Sorry, everyone. Can you still see me? Yes, you can still see. We're good.
Yeah.
I just couldn't see you. That's okay. So yeah, I'm just showing this because it's on the bit of black. Yeah, we can see the fabric a bit better now. So there's actually a bit of fabric here. And this bit of fabric I left purely to just hold all these pieces together and hold them, like sort of bridge between these two pieces. Because if I didn't, these bits would sort of flop down and this bit would sort of collapse in on itself a bit. So sometimes, depending on your shapes, you might actually benefit from leaving just a tiny bit more fabric around. It also stops it from tearing a little bit more if you leave a little bit around the edges. So yeah, depending on your shape, you might want to leave a bit more. And of course, if you intend on sewing it onto something, then you will want to, likely, you'll want to leave a seam allowance. I don't know how to get back to my screen, but that's okay. Anyway, we'll go back to, is this gonna work? No, escape. Oh, I've never seen what my computer's doing before. I'm so sorry.
Unfortunately, we can like talk to you, but that doesn't
Yeah.
doesn't lead you through the forest back to the window.
I'm going to, okay, oh, I got it back. Okay, I worked it out. I must have hit some shortcut and I'm not sure what it was, but we're back. It's fine. Live demos. Yeah, cool. So how are we all feeling about that? Is that
Very good.
good? Getting what you want? Feel like you could take it away and give it another go on your own? And if not, I have resources, but yeah. If a segment falls off, how do you recommend you fix it? Do you particularly like glue or? Yeah, so on these tulle kind of prints, they're very, very unlikely to fall off because they really are sandwiched in there quite tight. On some of the other fabrics, like the thicker stuff that we were talking about, if you weren't cutting holes in it, it might fall off. Still kind of unlikely, but if it did, probably some sort of fabric glue. Yeah, glue is kind of hard on a fabric. It never works fabulously well. But yeah, fabric glue would probably be your best bet. Yeah, what was this? Have I gone through all of them? If your printer allows for it, you might be able to make a frame similar to what's used with vacuum forming screen. Yeah, yeah. So like an embroidery hoop might work. You can sometimes get square ones of those. But yeah, a little frame you could stretch something over and even just clip it to it. That would probably work quite well. Yeah, I'm using Scotch Blue. It's just like a special one that has like this edge lock. You don't need it. It was just the one that they had at the store. Any Scotch Blue tape should work. Yeah, Scotch Blue tape is a good one. Yeah, where are we at? What have we got left? Yeah, just questions, comments, things. Yeah, you could print an embroidery frame. I think there are some on Thingiverse. Haven't tried them before, but I think I've seen them there before. Yeah, give that a go. Pop any questions in the chat or unmute yourself and just chime in. But I wanted to point you to some extra resources and help. So I'm very involved in lots of communities. So 3D Printing Discord is the largest 3D printing Discord. It's kind of like Slack, if you've never used Discord before. It's sort of like a chat platform. You have lots of threads of conversation going on at once. And yeah, be happy to help you there with any of these sorts of techniques. I'm also on Twitter. And there's an article on my site. So in the blog, there is a full article with lots more words. And there's also the slide deck that I linked to originally. So I will pop a link to those things into the chat. So that's the article. And yeah, it's a little bit older, but yeah, it's got the basic steps there. So if you want to try this again, and we haven't released this video yet, go forth, that will help you. Yeah, David Shorey often hangs out on Matt Stoltz's Friday call, American Friday. Matt Stoltz is the head of community for Prussia, but he just runs a social call every Friday that I join, and David Shorey is often on there. So if you want to jump on, he could also talk to you on Twitter too. But yeah, you can gaze in awe at him through Zoom on Fridays. I also mentioned, oh, the link didn't go through? Oh, everyone in waiting room, everyone in meeting. Have you been getting any of my links? I think I had everyone in waiting room that whole time. Anyway, so yeah, that's the post to the sort of written word one. Cyberdeck Discord, I mentioned my Polly Pocket Cyberdeck. And if you're at all interested in tiny retro computers or making fun things out of Raspberry Pis, that's a really fun place to be. Yeah. And then me, if you want to keep up with what I'm doing or you have any more questions about this or anything else, these are other places that I'm at. And I just started a YouTube, so that's quite fun. So yeah, join me and ask me any questions. But yeah, has anyone else got any questions for the now? Any comments, any ideas to share?
No, Billy, it's just an absolutely awesome seminar. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Sorry for all the stumbles. I was terrified. Cool. We should do it.
94%.
I'll hold them up. 94. Oh, so close. Oh, thanks everyone. I'm really glad. It's always hard live. I was like, what if the printer doesn't work? What if everything goes wrong? It's always, you know, a risk, a gamble. So I'm glad we mostly got through. Thanks everyone.
You did great, and it was a really good session. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Julian.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Richard. Oh, thank you, everyone. Woo. Yeah. Does anyone have any final questions before we round up? Pretty all right. If you
Can we
think
do
of
it
any.
again in a few months?
Maybe. Well, like I was thinking I might do a like shortened, neater version of this for YouTube. So yeah, I'll put it up on there. But we could do a Zoom sometime. Hit me up on Twitter or something, and we could do this again. It'd be fun. Have the slide deck now.
Well, Zoom can link straight to Twitch and YouTube and things like that. So you could even do something live with a group of people, and maybe there's a way to make sure that they are not included in the stream, or you can do things with OBS to do that too. Because, for example, it'd be great if you did one in, like, on, for example, stainless steel mesh.
Yes,
Live.
that would be cool. That would be cool. Yes. All right. Well, yeah, I'll definitely put that in my ideas book. That would be very fun, I think. I really like having people around. It makes it really fun. So thank you for joining me, and thank you for signing up for this. And yeah, I'm really glad that at least some of you got something out of it. So yeah, very, very cool. Oh yes, I am using OBS. We can talk more about that. I just added you on Twitter, Nina. So yeah, we can talk more about that. Zoom 3D Printing Club. Yeah, so Matt Stoltz's Friday Night Calls are pretty much a Zoom 3D Printing Club. So if you want one of those, we got you. We got you. Just follow Matt on Twitter. I'll put that back.
Say to get on the Friday calls, you follow Matt on Twitter. He posts a link every Friday, and then you go sign up, and he emails the link. It's a private. It's open to anybody, but it's not recorded or anything. It's a lot of fun. Yeah,
David's there every time. Great.
I just started a couple months ago. It's a very open, welcoming crowd. I'd recommend it to anybody.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you, Carrie, my link legend.
You're too busy being awesome to fiddle with links.
Awesome, awesome. Cool. Oh, well, yeah. Thank you, everyone. I don't have anything more really to tell you or say, but if you have anything to tell me or say, if there's any criticism too, please give it to me because I would love to improve. And yeah, hit me up on the socials.